He gently slices off the woman's long hair with a small, slowly and carefully, as if performing some kind of ritual. Then he spreads a thick layer of pig fat across her entire body. The greasy layer slowly absorbs the natural scent of her skin, capturing every trace of her unique fragrance. Once the fat has completely absorbed her body's aroma, he carefully collects it piece by piece. After that, he pours alcohol into the mixture, slowly diluting the greasy substance before transferring it into a nearby distillation bottle. When everything is ready, he begins heating the mixture. Inside that pig fat, blended with the woman's natural scent, something extraordinary begins to happen. As the mixture breaks down under heat, a single precious drop of human essential oil is finally extracted. But this is no ordinary scent. Just one tiny drop placed on the hand can release waves of fragrance into the air, a scent so powerful it awakens the deepest instincts inside anyone who smells it, stirring an overwhelming sense of love and devotion. After experiencing this first success, Gray becomes even more obsessed with his experiments. His killings become more frequent and far more calculated. Each time he carefully selects a different young girl, choosing victims with unique personalities and different natural scents. Yet, despite the variety of victims, the method never changes. He always uses the same cold absorption technique to extract their body fragrance, eventually refining it into bottle after bottle of perfume. His crimes are terrifyingly clean and precise. He leaves absolutely no trace behind. He never violates the girls' bodies, and he never steals any money or valuables. There seems to be no clear motive behind his actions. Even the victims come from completely different families and social classes, girls who share no connection with each other whatsoever. Because of this, the police find themselves completely lost. They cannot find any pattern, any motive, or any clue that might lead them to the killer. Meanwhile, the girls who mysteriously disappeared during the night have all been transformed, in Gray's hands, into bottles of perfume. Even when the police deploy large numbers of officers and conduct a citywide search across the perfume capital of Grass, they fail to identify a single suspicious person. Soon, the entire city begins to fall into chaos and fear. Parents forbid their daughters from leaving the house. Streets that were once lively and filled with the scent of flowers suddenly become quiet, tense, and frightening. The city that once symbolized beauty and fragrance slowly transforms into a place of anxiety and dread. But Gray remains completely unaffected by the growing panic. Hidden in the shadows, he continues his obsessive hunt for new scents. Each girl he kills gives him another bottle of human essential oil, a completely unique fragrance that can never be recreated. By this point, he has already collected 12 bottles. Each one comes from a different girl, and every bottle carries its own special aroma. Some smell like soft flowers, others like sweet fruit, while some carry the fresh scent of grass and plants. Every fragrance represents a life that once existed, a unique presence in the world. Yet, despite collecting 12 perfect scents, Gray is still not satisfied. He knows these 12 bottles are only supporting ingredients. What he truly needs is a final scent, a dominant fragrance powerful enough to rule over all the others. Only with this final scent can he create the ultimate perfume, the perfume of God, a fragrance so powerful that it could drive the entire world into madness. And the girl who carries that perfect scent is Laura, the daughter of a nobleman in Grass. Laura is known as the most beautiful and pure young woman in the entire city. Not only is she born into nobility, but her elegance and innocence make her stand out among everyone else. However, when her father hears about the mysterious disappearances of young girls across the city, he becomes deeply worried about her daughter's safety. Determined to protect her at all costs, he begins guarding the door outside her bedroom day and night. He forbids her from attending social events and limits all of her movements, believing strict protection will keep her safe. But what he does not realize is that the enemy he is facing is not an ordinary killer. Gray is a man without a scent, a ghost-like figure who moves through the world undetected. One night, while Laura is sleeping peacefully, the killer quietly sneaks into her room. Yet her father's constant anxiety keeps him alert even in his sleep. Suddenly, waking from a nightmare, he rushes to his daughter's room. To his relief, Laura is still safe, but something feels terribly wrong. The windows and doors that had been tightly closed earlier are now standing wide open. In that moment, the father realizes that someone had already been inside the room. The very next morning, the Baron immediately decides to leave the city with his daughter. But he has no idea that the moment Laura leaves the city, Gray senses it instantly through the faint traces of scent left behind in the air. The cautious father organizes two separate groups of escorts to avoid being followed. First, the main group leaves through the main road to distract anyone watching. Only after they're gone does he secretly take Laura along a smaller path. Unfortunately, he completely underestimates Gray's incredible sense of smell. Even after soldiers tell Gray that the Baron traveled north, Gray ignores the information and immediately follows the smaller road instead. Meanwhile, back in Gray's workshop, his small dog wanders into his room and begins sniffing around. Following the scent coming from beneath the floor, the dog discovers clothing belonging to the missing girls. When Gray's employer sees the hidden piles of long hair and the evidence buried inside the room, he immediately realizes the horrifying truth. Gray is the real killer. But by the time this discovery is made, Gray has already left the city. Following the faint scent lingering in the air, he quickly tracks down Laura's location. Even if she has fled thousands of miles away, Gray is determined to find her. Laura's father, still deeply afraid, refuses to lower his guard. He rents out every room at an inn to prevent strangers from staying nearby. He carefully studies the surrounding terrain, making sure no one could approach unnoticed. Only after confirming that the location is secure does he allow Laura to stay in the safest room. However, far away from the city, Laura has no idea that Gray has already arrived downstairs. Calmly and patiently he prepares his tools, spreading the pig fat he brought with him onto a piece of cloth. Then he quietly enters Laura's room. Standing beside the sleeping girl, he slowly takes out the weapon he prepared. The next morning, when Laura's father comes to check on her as usual, the sunlight reveals a horrifying scene. Laura's long hair had been completely shaven off, and she lay lifeless before him. Using the same cold absorption technique, Gray extracts Laura's scent and creates the final bottle of human essential oil, the most perfect one of all. When he combines it with the 12 bottles he had already collected, the ultimate perfume is finally born. This is the perfume he has spent his entire life chasing, the legendary perfume of God. But before he can use it, a large group of police suddenly surrounds him. With guns raised, they shout for him to put his hands in the air. Gray is arrested and quickly sentenced to death by the city of Grass. On the day of his execution, the entire city gathers in the central square. Everyone wants to witness the punishment of the man who murdered 13 young girls. The square becomes packed with people waiting for justice. Yet Gray shows no fear at all. Instead, he secretly takes out the bottle of perfume he had hidden. Just before he is brought to the execution platform, he opens it. As the perfume slowly spreads through the air, something unbelievable begins to happen. The guards standing near him suddenly feel their anger disappear. More and more people fill the square waiting for the criminal to arrive. But instead of a terrified prisoner, Gray appears dressed in clean, elegant clothes, arriving in a luxurious carriage right before everyone's eyes. Even Laura's father cannot believe what he is seeing.
When Gray steps down from the carriage, the entire square falls silent. Every person's eyes are fixed on him. When he steps onto the execution platform, even the executioner begins to feel deep love and admiration toward him. Voices suddenly shout through the crowd, insisting that the man before them is innocent. Gray calmly places a single drop of perfume on his handkerchief and gently waves it through the air. As the perfume spreads across the square, the crowd is completely overwhelmed by the fragrance. Smiles appear on their faces, and the tension vanishes. Even the most respected priest in the city shouts that the man before them is not human, but an angel. Within moments, the entire square falls into a strange state of worship. People kneel before Gray as if he were a divine messenger. They forget the 13 girls who died. They forget their anger, their hatred, their desire for justice. Instead, they celebrate, hugging and kissing each other, as if witnessing the arrival of a god. Yet despite the power he now holds, Grenouille feels no happiness. Standing above the crowd that worships him, he feels only confusion and sadness. He has discovered the greatest scent in the world, a perfume powerful enough to control human emotions, but he can still not smell himself. He cannot feel his own existence. He remembers the red-haired girl he killed long ago and realizes something tragic. He can make the entire world love him, but he will never receive a single piece of genuine love. He has conquered the most beautiful scents in the world, yet he can never capture a true identity for himself. He has conquered the world, yet lost himself completely. After the execution scene ends, and the crowd remains trapped in their strange state of madness, Grenouille quietly leaves the city of Grasse and begins traveling back toward Paris. Many people later wonder whether the shocking final scene of the film was actually real. In truth, it was created through careful filming techniques and visual effects by the director. Eventually, Grenouille returns to the filthy fish market where he was born. This disgusting place, filled with rotting smells, was the beginning of his life, and will now become its end. He opens the remaining bottle of divine perfume and pours the entire thing over his body. The pure and powerful fragrance instantly surrounds him, creating an intense contrast with the foul odor of the market. The scent quickly attracts nearby beggars, criminals, and wanderers. Drawn by the irresistible fragrance, they gather around Grenouille. When they see him standing there, releasing the most beautiful scent they had ever smelled, they lose control completely. They tear at his clothes and bite into his flesh, desperate to possess that perfect fragrance for themselves. Grenouille does not resist. He does not struggle. He simply stands there quietly as they consume him piece by piece. By the next morning, when the first rays of sunlight shine over the fish market, nothing remains except chaos and scattered remains. There is no body left at all. Grenouille spent his entire life chasing the perfect scent in order to prove that he existed. In the end, however, he was destroyed by the very perfume he created. And that is where today's story comes to an end.